Many of you have already heard of the trolley dilemma, originally presented by English philosopher Philippa Foot. For those of you who haven't, here's a quick rundown. Imagine you're driving a runaway trolley, and unfortunately, on the tracks in front of you, there are a few people tied up. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In my version of this scenario, these are no ordinary people. They are the greatest scientific minds to ever exist. Albert Einstein, Sam Altman, and APJ Abdul Kalam. Now, don't worry, this is the trolley dilemma. You can save them simply by diverting the trolley from this track to another one. Unfortunately, there is a catch. On the other track as well, there are a few people tied up. However, these famous people didn't discover groundbreaking scientific theories, or design an influential missile program, or create an AI chatbot that revolutionized our world. And the way I do homework, these famous people made art. So as you can see on the other track, we have Aristotle, the father of politics, Rabindranath Tagore, commonly known as the Bard of Bengal, and Taylor Swift. Need I say anything more about her? And so the dilemma arises. Who do you save? I'd like you to raise your hand if you would choose to stay on the same track and run over the scientists. Okay, and how many of you would choose to switch to the other track, saving the scientists, but running over the arts and humanities experts? Okay, so that is quite a few of you choosing to save the STEM experts over the humanities ones. To be very frank, I'm glad that that's what you did. Otherwise, the whole point I'm trying to make here would be sort of obsolete. And that point is why. Why do so many of us seem to value the STEM experts so much more than the humanities ones? Why do we seem to think they're more important or more successful? I personally think this is something to do with our definition of success. I'd like to start off by telling a short story. Once upon a time, in a small town in West Bengal, there lived a young boy. Now, this boy was very academically talented, and he did well at subjects like science and math in school. But the boy's mind was artistic, creative. He loved design. Now, this boy's parents were doctors, and so naturally, they pushed him to be one as well. Keep in mind that this story is taking place about 20 to 30 years ago. Back then, kids didn't tend to be as outspoken as they are today, or so I'm told. So anyways, despite some mild protests about his true passion not being biology or chemistry, off the boy went to be a doctor. And he did turn out to be a pretty good one. But as he still says today, he lost a part of himself in the process. A part that was passionate about art and design and about looking at the world through something other than a scientific lens. A few of you may have already guessed it, but yes, this story is about my dad, and I know for a fact that he is glad that it is being shared here today. The point that I want to try and make through this story is that even though it may be subconscious for some of us, but there really isn't a sense of equality between STEM and humanities in our society today. And ever since I found my true passion in political science and English, this has bothered me. It's not uncommon for even mere acquaintances to come up to me and ask me, with a very confused, mildly concerned look on their faces, humanities? But beta, what is it that you plan to do as a job? And so I've always felt a little out of place. Because even studying in a school that does value the liberal arts, unquestionably, a majority of the students in my batch are focused on STEM. And yet, I've come across so many people my age who turn to these subjects not because it's what they found their true passion in, but because it's their parents' or their friends' definition of success, being a doctor or an engineer or doing finance. Let's move on to higher level education. Already, social science degrees cumulatively make up just 8% of all higher education degrees. The number of graduates in the humanities has declined by nearly 30% from 2012 to 2020. And unfortunately, this number only continues to worsen. Recent research by the Indian Institute of Social and Economic Change found that social science research, SSR, receives much less funding than research in the pure sciences. And on a similar note, quite recently, I read an article by the New York Times, "Can Humanities Survive the Budget Cuts?" Unfortunately, American institutions are currently cutting out humanities majors like social justice study, philosophy, and foreign language programs in order to invest more in degree programs that provide a higher value to both taxpayers and graduates. But in response to that, I'd like to ask, why must we have such a strictly careerist view of the degrees that students get at university? It's not true that all that students are looking for from college is a job. We're looking for fulfillment, an education that fuels our passions and feeds our souls, not just our bank accounts. Unfortunately, that is the case today, and that is how humanities continues to suffer in American institutions today. However, even by conventional standards of success, humanities majors do tend to fit the bill. Currently, about 1/3 of Fortune 500 CEOs have a humanities degree, and about 70% of humanities majors get hired by the private sector. And take your biggest tech moguls from the past few decades. We all know Steve Jobs as a tech genius and as a business magnate, but what a few of us might not know is that Jobs once took a calligraphy class. In fact, this class impacted Jobs so much that it contributed greatly to his designing of the Mac. In his own words, "It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture." And all of us here, even the Windows users, know that what makes Apple stand out above all others is its gorgeous, user-friendly design. At the start, when I presented the trolley dilemma to all of you, I feel like a few of you may have chosen to save the STEM experts because you felt like they had a bigger impact on the world. But sometimes I feel like we tend to forget about the impact that the humanists have. We tend to forget about the role that Rabindranath Tagore and his literary works played in uniting a country torn apart by colonial rule. We tend to forget about the role that the UN plays in providing humanitarian aid during so many global crises, such as the recent Israel-Hamas war, despite the deaths of so many of its employees. On a lighter note, even Taylor Swift, or whoever your favorite artist is, has probably played a crucial role in getting you through your darkest days and in making your road trips just a little more fun. In a world that is so abstract and so colorful, humanities can teach us to look beyond the exacts. When I went on a field trip to Delhi in middle school, for the very first time, I learned to appreciate the layers of history that constructed the city. When I participated in a school journalism project in 7th grade, for the very first time, I was able to empathize with and share the stories of complete strangers. When I first began reading about international affairs, I was able to understand how to write with nuanced global perspectives and how one could truly be a global citizen. Keep in mind that none of this, or what you see on the PPT, is meant to be a promotion for the humanities, though. Don't worry, I am not being paid by the school humanities department to do this. In all honesty, this talk was never meant to be STEM versus humanities, because the very line that divides STEM and humanities is artificial. Think about Leonardo da Vinci. Didn't he create some of the most iconic artwork on the planet while simultaneously designing advanced aircrafts? Humanities and STEM may be distinct fields, but they are not divergent. And it is only when the two of them unite, like threads of a tapestry coming together harmoniously, that their potentials can be explored without any limits. And in a world that is so racked with problems, we need both. We need the STEM majors to help us design quality technological solutions to the climate crisis. But at the same time, we need the economists, the sociologists, the philosophers to help us plan and execute these ideas, keeping in mind the various social, cultural, political, and economic perspectives. The very line that divides STEM and humanities is artificial, and it is up to us to get rid of it. And so today, I leave you all with a request. Figure out your own definition of success, and when someone else expresses theirs, be curious, not judgmental. Even though this might be a little cliche, appreciate your own and others' individuality, because at the end of the day, that's all we really have. If I ever have the chance to meet any of you ever again, I plan to present the same trolley dilemma to you. Same trolley, same tracks, same situation. Who do we save, Albert Einstein or Taylor Swift? Well, how about we try and stop the trolley and save both? Thank you.